Take a look at what customs officers found when they searched two passengers arriving at JFK Airport with more than 20 pounds of cocaine strapped to their bodies. The drugs have an estimated street value of $380,000.
Can you imagine being trapped in a nightmare where your life and freedom are sold for profit? Today, thousands of people are ruthlessly exploited as drug mules, often facing unimaginable cruelty. But why does this exploitation persist, and what does it say about the world we live in? Well, first off, can you even imagine the grim reality behind the lives of drug mules? Drug mule exploitation isn't a new phenomenon. It has been a dark aspect of drug trafficking for decades, if not centuries. The exploitation of drug mules began in earnest with the rise of large-scale drug trafficking operations. Historically, the use of drug mules can be traced back to the early 20th century, when drug laws first began to tighten globally. But it wasn't until the 1980s, with the rise of international drug trafficking, that the exploitation of drug mules became more widely recognized and brutally prevalent. So who exactly are drug mules, and what is their life like? A drug mule is a person who smuggles illegal drugs, often across borders, usually as part of a trafficking operation. This smuggling can occur in various ways. Drugs might be hidden in their luggage, within their vehicle, or even inside their own body. The role of a drug mule is dangerous and often perilous. But why do people end up in this risky position? Well, many people are drawn into drug mule activities by the promise of quick money. However, it's crucial to understand that some individuals are coerced or forced into becoming drug mules against their will. This situation often involves human trafficking, where individuals are manipulated or threatened to carry out these illegal activities. Living as a drug mule is far from glamorous. It involves constant fear of arrest and extreme physical and emotional stress. They also deal with the physical toll of carrying drugs, often in dangerous conditions. This psychological strain can be immense, as drug mules live with the fear of being caught, imprisoned, and even violence from drug cartels, and the trauma of their situation. The harsh reality is that drug mules often endure terrible conditions, being exploited for financial gain or under threat. The conditions they work under can be grueling, with long hours, inadequate food, and constant fear of being discovered or betrayed. The criminal penalties for drug mules are also severe. In the United States, drug crimes are heavily punished. Nearly half of federal inmates are serving time for drug-related offenses. Drug mules face federal charges under 18 U.S.C. 545, which criminalizes smuggling goods into the country. Depending on the drug involved and the circumstances, sentences can range from 5 to 20 years in federal prison. Additionally, many convicted drug mules face charges for related crimes, such as money laundering, further complicating their legal battles. Now, when we think of drug smuggling, images of shadowy figures and high-stakes operations often come to mind. But behind these criminal networks are real people, many of whom are women caught in a complex web of desperation and coercion. But firstly, who are these women? The women involved in drug smuggling come from diverse backgrounds. They range in age from 23 to 52, though most in their 20s and 30s. Their nationalities also span the globe, including South African, Brazilian, British, and Portuguese, among others. Professionally, they had varied jobs such as hairdressers, secretaries, and childcare workers before they became entangled in smuggling operations. So why did they get involved? For many of these women, financial hardship was a significant factor. They struggled with bills, debt, and providing for their families. Some were regular users themselves, which might have further entangled them in the world of smuggling. A few more were financially stable before their involvement, but circumstances quickly deteriorated. Economic desperation and significant life events like domestic abuse or severe financial crisis often push them into smuggling. These women were typically introduced to their roles by trusted contacts, such as friends or family members, who promised financial relief or a way out of their dire situations. The COVID-19 pandemic has further exacerbated these issues, increasing unemployment and economic stability, which in turn has heightened vulnerability to criminal exploitation. The economic downturn has had a disproportionate impact on women, particularly those in informal and precarious employment. Now, how did they smuggle the drugs? Most of these women caught were bringing drugs like cocaine or cannabis into the UK. They typically concealed these drugs in their suitcases, with some even resorting to more dangerous methods like swallowing drugs. The drugs often originated from their home countries, and journeys were frequently planned to end in the UK. A particular case involved swallowing balloons filled with drugs. The balloons, made from multi-layered condoms, were filled with drugs using a special machine. Traffickers often used drug-laced soup or anesthesia to help the victim swallow up to 120 balloons. During the journey, they were given medication to stop bowel movements. Once they arrived, laxatives were used to retrieve the balloons. This dangerous method, however, has caused many deaths when balloons burst inside the body. One of the victims, named DJ, was forced to swallow 86 balloons. Sadly, she witnessed another girl die from a ruptured balloon. Interestingly, many even claimed they did not know they were carrying drugs. Some admitted to feeling suspicious but proceeded anyway, often under significant pressure or coercion. Some women even thought they were transporting something less harmful than drugs, reflecting a disturbing lack of understanding of the full scope of their actions. Few women did knowingly smuggle drugs, driven by severe financial stress. For instance, let's take a quick look at the case of an African woman in her 40s who was caught with 5 kilograms of cocaine. Struggling to support her kidnapped son and pay legal fees, she was lured into the drug trade by a friend. Promised around £2,600, she was flown from South America to the UK with drugs hidden in her suitcase. Although she refused to swallow the drugs due to past horror stories, the cocaine in her luggage led to her arrest. Serving a 6.5-year sentence, she now reflects on her experience with mixed feelings. But despite the harsh reality, she found personal growth and hopes for a better future. This case underscores the harsh exploitation faced by many drug mules, driven by desperation and manipulated by criminal networks. Another was desperate for accommodation after her boyfriend was released from prison. Such dire circumstances led them to take dangerous risks, often under the guise of helping or supporting trusted individuals. Plus, the role of coercion in these smuggling operations cannot be understated. Many women reported that their passports or documents were taken from them, and they were chaperoned during their journeys, and they faced threats of violence. This control often extended to their families, with threats made to loved ones if they did not comply. Such tactics ensured their cooperation and prevented them from seeking help or backing out of the arrangement. The sentences for these crimes varied widely. Women convicted of smuggling cocaine faced custodial sentences ranging from 4 to 11 years, with most serving around 8 years. Those caught with cannabis received much lighter sentences, reflecting the drug's lower classification. The length of sentences also depended on factors like whether the women pleaded guilty and the nature of their involvement in the smuggling operations. However, the consequences for these women were often devastating. They experienced significant emotional and psychological impacts, including feelings of betrayal by those who had involved them in smuggling. Relationships with family and friends often broke down, and many faced unemployment or homelessness upon their release. For those who had children, the effects were particularly harsh. Some lost contact with their children, who suffered in their absence, experiencing issues like depression or academic struggles. Foreign nationals faced additional hardships, including separation from their families for extended periods, and difficulties in maintaining connections while imprisoned abroad. In essence, the harsh reality of drug mule exploitation stands out as especially brutal when compared to other crimes. These individuals are often pushed into dangerous situations by desperate circumstances, facing severe consequences with little regard for their safety. Unlike other crimes, drug mules are often exploited due to their vulnerability, making their plight even more tragic. Now, what are your thoughts on the brutal exploitation of drug mules? Do you think more should be done to address this issue? Share your opinions in the comments below. And if you found this video informative, don't forget to hit that like button and also subscribe to our channel for more.